There we are. Happy Wednesday, the 20th day of December 2017. This is Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. For the time being, I'm Dan Kuntz, this is Steve Hare, and welcome to this Wednesday edition of the program. Kat is in the control room, and once again, Stacy, our TriCaster, the big thing that kind of controls all the things that happen for the next hour, is not behaving well again.
Yeah, well, she needs some disciplining, obviously.
Yeah.
And Caitlin's just the person to do it.
Anybody want to buy a used TriCaster, get a hold of us here at the NCW Life Channel. It may be at the bottom of the Columbia by the end of the day today.
Oh, 5 more days.
Till what?
Christmas.
Oh, that's right. Christmas is coming.
That's right.
Christmas is coming. By the way, that reminds me, on Monday, the 25th day of December, we won't be here. In fact, we have special programming all day on that particular day. So no Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on that day.
But if news breaks, we will be working.
Yes. If news breaks, Steve will be working. We got through yesterday okay. No real problems around north central Washington as far as the roadways. National Weather Service pretty much nailed it. We had some snow. Didn't really stick around very much.
Oh,
and then it switched over to rain.
Hold on a minute now.
What?
I've still got snow on my deck, and I was shoveling it off yesterday afternoon when I got home.
See, I don't have any.
We have snow on the ground in East Wenatchee still.
Right. So, yeah, there's none where I live here, and of course I live closer to the river. So.
Au contraire.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I was just speaking for personal experience. It's chilly. It's 28 degrees and cloudy skies, and we're going to have some pretty chilly weather. We're done with the precipitation. There's no snow at all in the forecast for the Wenatchee Valley through, well, next week. You know, about 10% chance here and a 10% chance there. Also, the mountain passes, they're done with the wet stuff as well, but they got hammered pretty good. So the big story for the weather department is going to be cold temperatures. We'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. Second half of the program, my friend Lauren Connor, who was actually on vacation this week, was kind enough to come down yesterday morning and tape the interview segment of this award-winning program. He is our in-house Star Wars expert.
Oh.
He knows everything there has ever been to know about Star Wars. And of course, The Last Jedi is in theaters. It's sweeping America, taking America by storm, kind of like this program. And Lauren was in, and he was kind enough, and we taped a little interview with Lauren. We'll get that going on.
I guess you could say it's taking the nation by storm trooper.
Oh, good. Nice play on words, Steve. I appreciate that. So let's get busy. We got everything else to go to, and we'll start out with the cameras around the Wenatchee Valley, courtey of Sky-Fi.
Oh, gosh, that's gorgeous.
Wow.
Spectacular shot of the valley this morning.
Steve, you're a descriptive guy. You got a lot of words that run around in your head. What would you describe that as? Give me an idea.
I would call it a jewel case.
Ooh, I like that. That's good.
Isn't that beautiful?
That's good.
Gosh.
That's beautiful. That's, of course, is our cross camera, which is up and running again. We had it up and running yesterday. You couldn't see anything because of the clouds and the snow and the rain and the fog and the mud and the blood and the beer. So good morning, Wenatchee Valley. It's good to have you on board. Camera 2 is when we find out together. That's the monitor camera Steins. I'm sorry. Steins pointing to the east, because you can see the sun coming up there, Steve, on the right-hand corner of your screen. Cashmere. I had a couple friends in Cashmere. It's like quite a bit of snow, a few inches of snow in Cashmere, which is basically the same elevation as the Wenatchee Valley, which is kind of odd. But what they had, of course, it can really channel down into that valley there and get a little more snow. And
I think actually, kind of a factoid here, interesting trivia, is that the USGS has placed the dead center of the state near Cashmere.
Yes, it is.
The actual landmark is there.
It's also very hard to get to.
Yeah.
It's quite the hike, I might add. Camera number 3. Let's go to Monument Hill. Good morning, Quincy. See, I see snow on the ground there. Absolutely, they've got some high clouds there. We're going to start out with some clouds, and then we're going to the clouds are going to depart as that last of the storm system, Steve, exits the area, and that's going to mean clear skies for the most part today. We're going to start out with partly sunny skies, and then go to mostly sunny skies as the day progresses. Camera number 4 is that's Billy Goat. That's Billy Goat. We've moved the camera a little bit of Billy Goat, haven't we?
You can actually see Pateras.
And you can see Brewster.
Yes.
You can see Brewster. You can see Pateras. You can see the dam there. You can see the Methow River.
Just crystal clear this morning.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Just gorgeous. I love this area. But get ready for some chilly weather. Oh, my goodness.
It looks cold in that picture.
Yeah, it does. It looks cold. It makes you want to, even though we're in a nice, warm, cozy studio, it makes you want to put on a sweater. Good morning, Pateras. Thanks for joining us here on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley, Wednesday, 20th day of December. Let's go ahead and do your weather forecast from the National Weather Service, and that is what it looks like. So there you go. Partly sunny today, and then gradually, even whatever clouds we have now, Steve, are going to depart by noonish or so. It's going to be nothing but sunshine and a high near 38 degrees, which is actually going to be a degree warmer than it was yesterday. Clear skies tonight, 18 for the overnight low. Partly sunny Thursday. You see the snowflake that we put up on the graphic on Friday? There's a 20% chance of snow, and they're not expecting any accumulation at all. It's just probably not going to happen. What's going on is the jet stream. There's a big high pressure ridge off the Pacific coast, Steve, and that has caused the jet stream to go up and pay Alaska a visit. And then it loops down, comes right down through British Columbia and right down over the top of central Washington. So all that cold air, that cold Arctic air up in Alaska is going to sweep right down and pay us a visit, and it's going to blow all the clouds out of here. No precipitation at all. Can I do that again? And then that's why we look at those really cool temperatures. Look at Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And on Christmas Day, you see the big jolly guy there. The graphic, if Santa wasn't there, would be clouds. So Christmas Day, we're going to have cloudy skies and a high of 25. But the big story there, outside of that, you see those little flakes there? That's just kind of an advisory thing. I don't think we're going to get any snow.
I think it's wishful thinking is what it is.
I'm dreaming. So there's your forecast from the National Weather Service. Just a gradual cool down as that cold Arctic air will pay us a visit because the jet stream's going to bring it right down to us.
Beautiful.
Mountain passes, boy, they had a bad day.
They got pummeled, didn't they?
They got pummeled. Right now, things are okay. It's a traction tire advisory across the board, all the big three. We affectionately call them the big three. I-90 that you see on your screen right now. Traction tires are advised. Compact snow and ice on the roadway. It's still snowing on I-90, but not particularly hard. The snow is going to taper off by the end of the day today. In fact, they're expecting maybe an inch tops today on the mountain passes. Stevens Pass, just like I-90, traction tires are advised. Compact snow and ice on the roadway. Light snow coming down on Stevens Pass and on Blewett Pass. Clear skies up above. Some snow, slush, and ice in places on Blewett, US 97, and there is a traction tire advisory. By noonish or so, once the plows get a few more runs through and get all that residual snow and ice, those will probably all go away. And the forecast for the mountain passes, outside of a little bit of light snow today, that's it. Passes are going to see sunny skies and no snow and very chilly temperatures. Highs will only be in the teens in the mountain passes, but there is zero snow in the forecast, maybe Friday night. And that's so much that they're not even expecting it to get to an inch or so. So still some leftover snow from yesterday's system that passed through that gave everybody a little dose of the white stuff and a bunch of the mountain passes. That ends today. They go to clear skies. It looks like for you people who are going to be driving over the major mountain passes for the Christmas holidays, you'll be just fine.
I did notice on Facebook there was an advisory by the Weather Service, big bunch of snow, I guess, in the Panhandle area.
Yeah.
And they have an avalanche warning in that area today. So.
Yeah, Idaho Panhandle got a lot of snow. Coeur d'Alene got a lot of snow. Sandpoint got just tons of snow. So if you're heading that direction, off to Spokane and then into Idaho and then to western Montana, you're going to deal with some pretty dicey driving conditions. And they're still going to get a little bit more snow as opposed to us here in the mountain passes. 8 minutes after the hour, Wednesday, 20th day of December, 2017. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. We are live here from Studio 4 in downtown Wenatchee. Quick 1 minute break, and then the news, courtesy of the gentleman to my left, Steve Hare, will come your way in 1 minute. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Live channel.
If you are looking for dependable car service and repair, visit the good guys at Quick Lube and Tune. They've been keeping cars and trucks in the Wenatchee Valley running smooth for 35 years. Quick Lube and Tune is your hometown shop for a 10-minute oil change, complete tune-ups, alignments, brakes, mufflers, air conditioning service, and more. Get more life out of your vehicle by bringing it to the local guys you can trust at Quick Lube and Tune on South Wenatchee Avenue.
The Christmas season is finally here. Now through the end of the year, it's Happy Honda Days. Happy Honda Days, Angela. Happy Honda Days, Erin. Do I get excited about Happy Honda Days on our lifetime warranty? Yeah. With our year-end clearance, there's a lot to get excited about.
You have to admire Courtney's passion.
Happy Honda Days, Todd.
And now it's time for your local news update with Steve Hare.
Good morning and welcome back to Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. Nice to have you along for the ride this morning on this 20th day of December. Here's what's happening around north central Washington on a cold Wednesday morning. A major storm sweeping over the Cascades this week, causing traffic nightmares yesterday over the passes as DOT snowplows scrambled to keep up with that snowfall. Chains were required in both directions, with traction tire advisories issued for Stevens and Blewett passes yesterday. Things have improved greatly overnight, certainly. That's a picture as it looked yesterday morning at about 10:50 in the morning. So that's the Snoqualmie Pass. Again, things have improved. Only traction tire advisories over the big three this morning. Eastbound I-90 Snoqualmie Pass, though, was closed twice due to several collisions and spinouts. In fact, State Trooper Brian Moore shared this photo of a car that spun out on US 2 just east of Leavenworth. Speed was a factor in that crash, according to Trooper Moore. Authorities are advising motorists to take it slow and plan your trips accordingly over the Cascades this week. Also, power has been restored for about 200 Chelan County PUD customers in the Mary and Little Chumstick Canyons area after heavy, wet snow yesterday caused a tree to fall into some power lines along Chumstick Highway, about 7 miles up from Leavenworth on Tuesday. Now, there was word from the PUD of 2 more power outages yesterday since power has been restored this morning. One near Peshastin along Steins Hill Road, where customers in a mobile home park and other nearby neighborhoods were without energy, and the other on Beecher Hill, where about a dozen people were without power. In other PUD news, Chelan County commissioners Monday received an update on a recent surge in requests for new large load power services from Bitcoin and blockchain operations. NCW Live's Jay Seebeck has more on that story.
During the past 2 years, the market value for Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency, has skyrocketed from $300 to around $20,000. Chelan PUD responded to earlier HDL interests in 2015 by developing a new rate structure for energy loads up to 5 megawatts. Now that the cryptocurrency market is so attractive, Chelan PUD is seeing dramatically increasing interest by Bitcoin miners for much larger loads. John Stoll, the Customer Utilities Managing Director, said the unprecedented increase in requests has been overwhelming.
Where we're at now, it's really, again, with all these applicants and people who are just doing inquiries and conversations, it's really putting a lot of stress on staff who, as we've worked through the budget process, we have a lot of priorities around substations, hooking up new homes, businesses, kind of what we would call our organic growth, which is busier than it has been.
The power needs are significant. The PUD has received 4 inquiries of 100 megawatts or more, each of which will take detailed study if a formal application is submitted. Additionally, there are multiple inquiries in the 10 to 50 megawatt range, with ongoing interest for small hobby-type connections. At the same time, staff are seeing unpermitted HDLs in residential neighborhoods requiring immediate attention. Jay Seebeck, NCW Life News.
Also this morning, the Grant County Assessor's Office has received calls regarding someone impersonating an appraiser and then trying to be let into some homes south of Ephrata. The sheriff says Ephrata and Soap Lake are currently being inspected as a regular course of inspection, and county appraisers are out in the field and they may want to access your property, but they stress that they will never ask to come inside your home or building. All appraisers will be wearing their county employee badge. They have business cards on hand, and they'll be driving county vehicles. Usually the vehicle will have the county seal and the word assessor on the side, but occasionally the sheriff says they do need to borrow vehicles from the county motor pool. They all have government plates, so they're readily identifiable. Sheriff's Office says you should not hesitate to call the assessor's office to verify the identity of an appraiser. You can reach them at 509-754-2011. That's the Grant County Assessor's Office. 3 landowners near Moses Lake have been fined by the state for illegally using more than 500 million gallons of water from the Odessa aquifer. Back in June, the Washington Department of Ecology issued cease and desist orders requiring those landowners and their leaseholder to stop pumping groundwater. Well, apparently they were ignoring the orders. They continued pumping water illegally for 3.5 more months to water 530 acres of crops. Ecology issued fines. Estimated value of the crops grown on the illegally irrigated lands is more than $1 million. Penalties, though, of course, can be appealed to the Pollution Control Hearings Board within 30 days. Congress expected to take a final vote today on the tax reform bill, and it could be ready for the president's signature later this afternoon at the earliest. Among the elements included in the bill is the elimination of the individual mandate. That's an element, of course, of the Affordable Care Act, which 4th District Congressman Dan Newhouse says will benefit a large number of constituents in his central Washington district. He commented during a House Rules Committee hearing just prior to that House vote on Monday.
The state of Washington itself, almost 90% of the taxpayers that pay that individual mandate penalty earn less than $75,000. And the lion's share of those people really are earning somewhere between $25,000 and $50,000. So they're stuck between kind of a rock and a hard place, that proverbial spot that nobody likes to be in. They can't afford the health insurance and they can't afford the penalty either. And so I've got some, Mr. Chairman, I'd love to introduce to the record just some graphs that illustrate that. In the state of Washington, as I said, 88% of those taxpayers that pay that individual mandate earn less than $75,000. And you can't see this, but I'll put it in the record. Most of them fall into this $25,000 to $50,000 income bracket.
That objection being in the record.
A couple of my counties, just to illustrate even further. Adams County, 92% of the folks earn under $75,000. Again, more in the $50,000. Benton County, 89%. Douglas County, 89%. Grant County, 92%. My home county, Yakima, 92% of those folks are in that spot, that rock and a hard place. And so I just want to, tell you how much I appreciate, on behalf of my constituents, that removing that individual mandate, how important that's going to be, the immediate.
In fact, we'll have more on the local reactions to that tax reform package coming up later at 5 o'clock on our NCW Live Evening News with Grant Olson. Well, finally, who has the most festive holiday lighting display in the Wenatchee Valley? Our NCW Live cameras captured some of the more elaborate decorations around the Wenatchee area. I'll tell you what, some people really go all out here at Christmas time with their home decorations. And as such, NCW Life will be offering, get this, a $50 prize to the homeowner whose display we judge as the best in the valley. Pretty simple, just tell your friends to share their favorite house lighting display with us in a private message to our NCW Life Facebook page, and we'll announce the winner on January 2nd. In fact, we're already starting to get some submissions. This is from Dennis Hendricks and his house on Ashland Drive in East Wenatchee. So he's entered his house into the contest, and we invite you to do the same. And Dan and I will announce the winner after the new year.
Okay, cool. So I got to make a point to be here on January 2nd?
Yes, you do, as
Okay.
a matter of fact.
Just real quick. come to work. January
That's one of those days where I'm going to be guest hosting, folks. So.
No. It's a $50 gift card.
Yeah.
It's a $50 NCW Life gift card. So what you get is a $50 credit to watch this show. You get $50 with the show.
What a prize.
I don't know what it is. It's a $50 gift card that you can
That'd be
spend on
fun,
something.
though.
Like. Yeah, it's a
Be a lot of
good
fun.
idea. Good idea. I like that. So, the news with Grant Olson. Steve talked about it briefly. We'll talk about it a little bit more now. It comes your way Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. Our newscast with Grant Olson. Grant handles the news and the weather. Of course, we're all kind of gathering and disseminating news as a team because we have a team here. It's a team. It's a family. Grant himself handles the weather forecast because he's pretty good at that. Eric Granstrom does sports. We have our feature story. It's a good little newscast. We're pretty happy about it. And you can check it out Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. And Steve, we'd love to hear from our viewers, don't we?
You betcha. Give us a call on our hotline at 888-6295. That's 888-NCWL if you see any news breaking or if you have some ideas on possible story topics. We'd like to hear from you.
However, during Seahawk games, we wish that you don't do that because we're kind of busy. I'm just kidding. I got to write that down too. Don't come to work.
Not anymore.
So, yeah, they're not going to make the playoffs. They have an outside chance of making the playoffs.
They don't deserve to be in the
No,
playoffs.
they don't deserve. But I mean, it's a bizarre scenario. They have to win the rest of their games. 9 other teams have to lose their final 2 games,
Yeah.
and 3 teams have to declare bankruptcy and drop out of the league. If that happens, we're in.
That's right. I think the Mariners have a better chance of making it to the Super Bowl than the Seahawks do this year.
That's good, Steve. I'm writing that down now, too. Mariners Super Bowl joke. It is 21 minutes after the hour on this Wednesday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley, live here from Studio 7 in downtown Wenatchee. Steve's going to go back to work. I still got about 39 minutes of work left to do, including sports, the obscure holiday birthdays, today in history, our profile of our local business we invite you to go shopping with over the holiday season, and my interview with Lauren Connor, our friend who is the Star Wars expert extraordinaire in this building anyway, which makes him the Star Wars expert in North Central Washington. It's a fascinating interview. You'll love that. All of that coming up. Wake Up Wenatchee Valley, live on the NCW Life channel.
Dear Mary Maids, please clean the kitchen, and the cabinets, and the floors, and the chairs. And I wish you could clean the dog. Colin is now feeding himself. Thanks, Megan.
Hi, Megan. No worries. We got it all cleaned up. Let's hope Colin gets past the spaghetti flinging stage soon. Till then, we've got you covered. See you next time. Mary Maids.
Ladies of the Wenatchee Valley, do you know the secret of receiving the perfect gift for your birthday, anniversary, or Christmas? We have the answer for you at Collins Fashions. Come in and fill out a wish list. You can choose from beautifully crafted jewelry, handbags, and luggage from Brighton, stylish wallets and handbags from Lotus, cozy sweaters from Icelandic, zip fleece from Tommy Bahama, fashions from Joseph Ribkop, and Collins gift cards. Our little elves can contact your loved ones and share your wish list. Complimentary gift wrap and amazing service at Collins Fashions in downtown Wenatchee.
Starting to clear out the skies a little bit, 27 degrees in downtown Wenatchee. Partly sunny this morning, mostly sunny this afternoon, and a high of 36. And don't get used to that 36-degree high temperature, because we're going to see high temperatures in the mid-20s to even colder than that by the time the holiday weekend rolls around. So that's your trade-off, clear skies, but very chilly temperatures. All right, sports, the Les Schwab Prep Scoreboard from last night. Pretty light schedule. And Caribou Trail League action, as you see, Okanagan doubled up on Cascade last night. The boys winning 74-49. The girls came out on top 62-35. We had wrestling yesterday. Eastmont visiting Wenatchee in a Big 9 rivalry. They earned 24 points by pin and another 12 points via forfeit. And Eastmont defeated the Panthers 49-21. Our very own Eric Granstrom and his dad Dave had the call live right here on the NCW Life channel.
Under a minute to go in the first round. A plain old-fashioned half Nelson and wrist. There he goes. Chest to chest, readjusting, bringing the head up, and a pin right there by Javier Aragon with 49 seconds remaining in the first round. Shoulders bringing him back to the mat, and maybe a pinning move here for Arellano. He's in deep. Lifting that head up, and there's the pin at 1:14 of the second round. This is quite a match. Yes, it is. And another single leg by Tumine. No, look at the counter right to his back by Vivonko. And a pin. That was Eric, that was an old over and under move. One arm over the top of your opponent and the other one underneath and a throw to the side.
Sidio looking for the pin. Gutzweiler doing all he can to keep his back off the mat, but he can't. A pin and another win by pin for Eastmont.
Rodriguez got to keep moving or he's in trouble. He's in trouble.
Now he's got him cradle up in an odd cradle there. He's got his wrist held, his neck's held, and a pin with 1:19 to go in the third. 7 seconds, 6 seconds, 3-2 score. Mendoza tries to get to his base with 2 seconds with one. That's it.
What a match. What a match.
Pedro Acevedo wins it 3-2 over Cesar Mendoza at 160 pounds. And Chang with a good counter underneath, trying to grab hold of that leg with 1 second. That's going to be the match. And a come from behind win for Kelsey Ibarra over Cheyenne Chang, 7-2 the final.
Great match, fantastic match.
And the final here in the head-to-head team-wise is Eastmont winning it 49-21.
Nice victory for the Wildcats and a good crowd on hand at the Wenatchee High School Gymnasium. They had a very good crowd at the Town Toyota Center last night. About 1,000 folks showed up to see some men's college basketball. Central Washington took on Northwest Nazarene out of Idaho. Jawan Stepney had 16 points. Kalali Shabazz had 15. Central grabbed a 14-point halftime lead, and they cruised from there, an 80-67 victory. The Wildcats had 2 other players in double figures. Central improves to 6-4 in the season. Their conference record is now 2-2. It was a home game for Central, kind of a test run at the Town Toyota Center, and the attendance figures much larger than the Wildcats' last game down in Ellensburg at Nicholson Pavilion when 381 fans came through the turnstile. So the hardwood at the Town Toyota Center is going to see a lot more basketball over the coming days. The high schoolers will take center stage in the Giesa Credit Union NCW Basketball Showcase. Today, the Cashmere girls were faced Chelan. That tips off at 6, followed by the Bulldogs and the Goat boys at 7:30. Tomorrow, it's basketball, wall to wall to wall. It begins at 11 with the Eisenhower boys taking on Bethel. At 1 o'clock, Moses Lake boys and Linwood will do battle. We, here on the NCW Live channel, is going to have the University Wenatchee girls game live at 3. That's going to be followed by the U High Panther boys at 5:30. And then Eastmont will face Rogers with the girls at 7 and the boys at 9. And that's just Thursday. Friday, they do it all over again. Bethel and Moses Lake at 11. Ike and Linwood at 1. Rogers and University at 3 and 5. And then Wenatchee and Eastmont. The rivalry is renewed live right here on the NCW Live channel on Friday night. The girls at 7 and the boys at 9. And finally, best wishes to our friend Dennis Tronson, the head girls soccer coach at Cashmere High School and the head boys soccer coach at Wenatchee High School. Dennis apparently had a heart attack while he was skiing at Mission Ridge yesterday. He was rushed to Central Washington Hospital where he underwent surgery and had a couple of stents put in. We understand right now the prognosis is good, and Dennis should make a full recovery. Go get him, Dennis, one of my favorite people and a truly nice guy. His players love Coach Tronson. Quick recovery, Dennis, all right? 28 minutes after the hour, it's time for the obscure holiday of the day today. It's always a food or drink-related holiday. I need to work on that. It's National Sangria Day. National Sangria Day. It's always celebrated on December 20th because, well, we don't know. Sangria is not that hard to make. It's wine and fruit. How hard can that be? Maybe sometimes people put in a little liquor. You can throw in some herbs and spices and stuff. The combinations really are endless because there's all kinds of different wines and there's all kinds of different fruits to put in it. But the best way to enjoy a sangria is to really let the fruit and the wine get to know each other. Put it in a big pitcher and stick it in the fridge and seal it overnight. And that way they all get to interact with once and mix with each other. And then you got something good. So you always have to have your sangria cold, and it's best to be served after it was chilled in a glass pitcher, at least for a few hours in your refrigerator, possibly overnight. Sangria, I can take it or leave it. It's a tad too sweet for me, but I know a lot of people who love it. National Sangria Day. It's very refreshing in the summertime, and it's kind of refreshing in the winter as well. It is 29 minutes after the hour. Today in history. 1, 2, 3, 4 items. 4 items that passed my way. The Louisiana Purchase was completed. The deal was done. The ceremonies were held in Nolens on this date 214 years ago. It took a little while because they had to wait. Napoleon had to wait for Thomas Jefferson's check to clear the bank. It did, and they had the big ceremony in Nolens on this date 214 years ago. And of course, the United States doubled in size, one of Thomas Jefferson's better moves, and the guy made a lot of good moves. So the Louisiana Purchase became official on this date, December 20th, 1803. 71 years ago today, December 20th, 1946, It's a Wonderful Life made its debut in New York City. The all-time popular Frank Capra film, It's a Wonderful Life, is 71 years old today. The film lost $525,000 at the box office on its initial run. It actually lost $500,000. It eventually would recoup that costs and many, many more. James Stewart, in an interview later on in his life, said it was, of all the movies that he made 100 of them, he said, my favorite movie was It's a Wonderful Life. It's your savings and loan, Bob, and it's yours, Sarah. It's a Wonderful Life. Hit theaters on this date of 1946. 65 years ago today, they still remember this day very, very well out in Moses Lake, out in the basin. It was on this date of 1952. A United States Air Force C-124 crashed and burned shortly after takeoff from Larson Air Force Base in Moses Lake. Of the 115 people on board, 87 died, 28 survived. At the time, in 1952, it was the deadliest accident in aviation history. It was the deadliest accident in United States history. It remains the deadliest aviation accident in Washington State history, and it happened in our own backyard on this date 65 years ago. It was Operation Sleigh Ride. They were taking a bunch of Army veterans who were fighting in the Korean War, and they had leave for Christmas, and they were flying home to see their families when this tragedy happened in Moses Lake 65 years ago today. And the late lamented Seattle Supersonics were born on this date in 1966, 51 years ago today. Two Los Angeles businessmen, Sam Schulman and Eugene Klein, were awarded the NBA franchise for the city of Seattle. Of course, it was the city's very first major league sports franchise. They're no longer here, but we miss them. The Seattle Supersonics came into being on this date 51 years ago today. Bring back the Sonics. The day the Sonics left, I simply quit following the National Basketball Association. Birthdays, a couple of them for you. There are the four most important people in the history of baseball: Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson, Marvin Miller, and this guy, that guy, Branch Rickey. The American baseball player, manager, and executive. He did it all. Of course, he and Jackie Robinson teamed up together to break the color barrier when Jackie Robinson signed with the Dodgers, and of course made his major league debut in 1947. Would not have happened without Branch Rickey. Branch Rickey was the person who signed Roberto Clemente. He discovered him and signed him. Branch Rickey created the farm system. Branch Rickey encouraged Major League Baseball to expand by floating around the idea of the Continental League. Branch Rickey invented the batting helmet. Branch Rickey, one of the legends of baseball and in the Baseball Hall of Fame, was born in this state in 1881, passed away in 1965 at the age of 83. He changed the game of baseball for the good forever. And speaking of baseball, Fred Merkle. There's a name that's going to make you scratch your head a little bit. Fred Merkle. Fred Merkle was a baseball player for the New York Giants, and in 1908, in a game against the Chicago Cubs at the Polo Grounds, Merkle's boner happened. That's why it became known. Fred Merkle was on first base. There was a guy on third base. There was a base hit. The guy on third base came home with a winning run, and Fred Merkle, instead of touching second base, ran off to the clubhouse. Well, Merkle didn't touch the base, so the umpire called him out on a force play. They went and got the ball, and they went and stood on second base and said, that run doesn't count because he didn't touch second base. The game was declared a tie. At the end of the season, the Giants and the Cubs ended up in a tie, so they played a one-game playoff at the Polo Grounds, and the Cubs beat the Giants. And the Giants did not make it to the World Series, and the Cubs won the 1908 National League pennant, all because, they say, of Fred Merkle's quote-unquote boner. Fred Merkle, many, many years later, in an interview said, when I die, my obituary in the New York Times is going to say, Fred Merkle, the guy whose mistake cost us the pennant. And that is Fred Merkle's obituary in the New York Times from 1958. And sure enough, there it is. He was right, Fred Merkle. And by the way, his manager, John McGraw, did not blame Fred Merkle. He said it wasn't his fault. He blamed the league, but he didn't blame Fred Merkle. 34 minutes after the hour, let's talk real quickly about Clark's Jewelry. You know, they've been around since 1977. That is a heritage. Family owned, of course. Their staff knows what they're doing. They are so good. You got to get a diamond or a gemstone for that special person for the holidays. It's what you do. You got to do that. Of course, they are the authorized dealer for the best watches out there, including Citizen watches. Financing is available when you're dealing with an independently owned, family-operated business that's been around for 40 years, you're dealing with the best, and they don't get much better than Clark's Jewelry in beautiful downtown Wenatchee. Shop local this holiday season. 35 minutes after the hour, everyone is entitled to Mike Magnotti's opinion, and my guest, Lauren Connor, talking Star Wars. It's all coming up. Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life channel.
This is the NCW Life Community Calendar brought to you by Localtel. Old Time Radio Show It's a Wonderful Life is happening Thursday, December 21. Become a part of the live studio audience at 7:30 p.m. at the Numerica Performing Arts Center. The Leavenworth Nazarene Church presents their Living Nativity December 22 to 24 from 7 to 9 p.m. This free reenactment is narrated, has live animals, and a cast of characters. For more information, visit ncwlife.com.
Hi, I'm Cordell Schroeder, owner of East Wenatchee Mobile Storage.
If you're thinking about making a move anytime soon, check out the East Wenatchee Mini Storage brand new mobile storage service. They drop it off at your location, you pack it, and they pick it up and store it in their protected warehouse at East Wenatchee for as long as you need. When you're ready, they'll drop it off at your new home or office. East Wenatchee Mini Storage is excited to offer this brand new service to our region.
Call 509-884-8643 or find us on the web at ewministorage.com.
Family means something in these parts. Family owned and operated means even more. At Rose Tractor, you're buying more than a product. You're buying years of knowledge through multiple generations. It means you can count on Rose for quality products, quality repairs, and folks who stand behind the products they sell. From your job site to your home to rentals and repairs to new outdoor power equipment, Rose Tractor is growing with you throughout the years. Rose Tractor, quality brands you can trust year after year.
Folks, Carrie from Blueberry Hills. A chill is in the air and it's a perfect time for some old-fashioned comfort food like our amazing Eggs Benedict, chicken fried steak, French dips, soups made from scratch, or fruit pies fresh from the oven. The crowds might be gone, but we're still here for you folks, so bring an appetite and a friend to Blueberry Hills in Manson, where you pick, you sit, you eat, and you visit. Open Wednesday through Sunday from 8 to 3. wildaboutberries.com.
Hey, this is Mike Mad Dog Magnotti, and everybody is entitled to my opinion. Now, a friend of mine recently posted on Facebook how she's tired of hearing hate speech from Christians. In fact, hearing this kind of talk was what caused her to stop going to church. Well, that's an old complaint. Now, you've heard it. The church is full of hypocrites. Church people are just as bad as non-church people, yada, yada, yada. Well, okay, not denying any of that. But you know what I think about this, how I feel about it? This issue about hypocrites in the church, honestly, I'm just glad they let me in the door. This is Mike Mad Dog Magnotti, and that's my opinion.
Having a relationship with your pediatrician is so important. Feeling that sense of trust, that is priceless. I tell everybody about CDCH. I love it there. When I make an appointment, I don't have to take an entire day off. As a working mom, my life is really busy. Family time is everything. That's what we all work towards. And I feel like CDCH respects that.
And we're back on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. I am Dan Kuntz. It is the cultural phenomenon of the last 40 years. I think that's safe to say. It's not hyperbole. I'm not exaggerating. I'm talking about, of course, Star Wars. It began as a little bitty film in 1977. Who's kidding who? It was a huge film. It's now 40 years later, and the next group of films have now hit the movie theaters, and we asked around the building, and we said, who's the #1 Star Wars fan in this particular building in downtown Wenatchee? And the votes came in, and the winner is, dun-da-da-da, Lauren Connor. Welcome to the program, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk about Star Wars, your whole involvement with Star Wars, why you like it so much. I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, especially the first 3 movies, and I got a couple of stories about that. But let's get right to the point. The Last Jedi. You've seen it now a couple of times, without telling anybody what happens if the Last Jedi is revealed in this movie. your impression?
It was shocking. Fans like myself have spent the last couple of years trying to figure out where do you go after The Force Awakens. And Star Wars fans are notorious for arguing and debating and theorizing and trying to figure out what's going to happen next. As the reviews started coming out on the pre-release, people were being very careful about how they were talking about the movie, and they kept saying that this is like nothing you've ever seen before in the Star Wars universe. Shocking things are going to happen. And in the fan base, people got concerned about that. They were talking as though this was going to change everything that you've ever seen in the universe before. In this case, walking into the movie, I didn't know what to expect, and it's true. There are shocking events that occur in the movie. It's a lot of fun, but you're going to come out, you're either going to love the movie or you're going to hate it, and it depends on where in the fan base you sit, how your reaction is going to be towards the movie.
Critics have been overwhelmingly positive. They're falling all over themselves praising the movie. But the fans themselves are split right down the middle.
I'd say in thirds. There have been now 3 generations of Star Wars fans that have been all introduced at different times. You have the original trilogy diehards, you have the generation that came up during the prequels, and now you have these new sequel movies. And everybody seems to gravitate towards where their introduction point was. For those people who are brand new to Star Wars or casual fans, they seem to love the movie. For people that are original trilogy fans or even some of the prequel watchers, it's very divisive. People have a lot of different thoughts about main characters, especially Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker and his characterization in this movie, and I think people are going to be debating it for a long time.
Does this movie stand alone as a movie? If you have no idea, if you've never seen Star Wars before, you don't know Jabba the Hutt, from Luke Skywalker, from Princess Leia to anybody, does the movie stand alone as 2.5 hours of entertainment, or do you need to know the backstory to get it?
It depends on what you're going to the movie for. If you're a guy who loves special effects and spectacle and you like big battle scenes, then if you're coming to it just with the intent to have a fun Saturday afternoon, you'll probably enjoy it. But if you're going there for the story and wanting to understand what's going on, it's going to be difficult to use that as your entry point.
What would you use as the entry point? Go back to the previous movie?
Well, I always think that the original movies are the place to start. The brilliance of beginning with Episode 4 for George Lucas was that he had this big sprawling idea of this story that he wanted to tell, but he didn't have a budget or a studio that really believed in the project. So his thinking was, if I can only make one movie that's a self-contained story where I can get across what the background of all of this is, where would that be? And that's Episode 4. And the brilliance of starting there is that he takes the audience and uses Luke as the surrogate. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, in the middle of the movie, explains this backstory of who the Jedi Knights are, why they're important, and gives you the grounding for everything that you need to know to make all of the rest of the fireworks make sense. So that's where I would begin.
The Last Jedi, you used the word shocking. You have a son who's how old?
8.
Were you comfortable taking him to the movie, or was it a little too intense for an 8-year-old?
I think it was fine.
Okay.
Of course, every kid is going to be different, and being in my household, he's seen the original movies dozens of times, so it's not too intense for him. There is some violence that, especially in the middle of the movie, depending on how squeamish your children are, they may not want to have their eyes open during a particular scene. But besides that, I think that it's fine for kids of all ages. Star Wars has largely been bloodless throughout the entire saga, so I don't think it's something that would be too shocking.
I would say it's cartoon violence kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know there's violence going on, but you're not seeing blood and gore.
Sure, yeah.
And that kind of stuff.
There's been a couple isolated scenes in the series that have shown things like smoking skeletons and a little bit of blood, but as you said, it's no more than you'd see in any other movie.
Sure. It's 2.5 hours. Is it too long, too short? Did it fly right by?
I think you could probably trim maybe 20 minutes from it. Okay. By the end of the thing, it's probably time for it to end. But again, if you're a diehard fan, there's not a moment in the movie that's a good place to take a bathroom break, because it's constantly keeping the action going, and if you leave, you're going to miss something. So.
Channel your inner George Lucas. Do you think George has nothing to do with it anymore? He's signed away everything. He still gets, you sold it for what, a couple of $billion bucks, the whole franchise.
$4 billion.
Who owns the franchise now? Is it Disney?
It is Disney.
Are they true to the story? Would George be happy with it, or did Disney take it in a whole other direction? The new creative team, there's new people in charge now.
Yeah, there are. And when he sold the rights to Star Wars and all of the Lucas companies, it included his draft scripts for 7, 8, and 9. And the new creative team took a look at it and decided that they didn't like the direction that he was going to go. Their determination was that it was a little too close to the prequels, and the prequels had caused a bit of backlash when they first came out. So instead, they took some of the core concepts and they went off on their own direction. George was not terribly happy with The Force Awakens, I think because he felt that it was a bit of a copy of Episode 4.
Which was The Empire Strikes Back I'm sorry, with Star Wars, the original Star Wars, right? I gotta remember that.
It had a lot of similar story beats, and I think that he felt that he would have done something more original. He likes to say that he always tried to push the movies to do something different each time. I think it's safe to say that Episode 8 does that, and I think that's why the fan base is a little bit split right now. You have people that didn't like the prequels when they came out, complained that George Lucas had ruined Star Wars, and if they could just get rid of George, then the Star Wars movies would get back on track and be what the fans wanted. Now they've gotten rid of George, and they said that the Episode 7, the first one that came out without George's involvement, was too similar to what George wanted to do. So this time they came out and they did something completely different that was not something that George probably would have done, and now everybody's mad but it's not like George would have done it. So this is typical for fan bases. They love to argue, they are very opinionated, and they're passionate about how they feel about it. And so I just kind of sit back and watch and think this is funny. I like seeing the different opinions and how everybody justifies how they feel.
The first 3 movies, as were released, came out fairly close together as far as these things go. 77, and then The Empire Strikes Back a couple of years later, and then
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi were very close together, and then there was a fairly long period before the prequels came out. Did that hurt the Star Wars enterprise, so to speak? Because it was a long wait between Episode 6 and Episode 1.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you look at it. If you wanted to go and make the sequels, what we're seeing now, 7, 8, and 9, then waiting so long probably hurt. I think that these sequels may have been better received had they been made earlier instead of the prequels, because you would have had Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford still being younger and maybe being able to handle the action a little bit better. On the other hand, George was tired at the end of Return of the Jedi. He wanted to take a break. If he was going to make any more, he didn't think that he had the technology at the time to handle the kind of spectacle that he wanted to create. So around 1992, some of the people at the Lucas company wanted George to get started on some new Star Wars projects, and George thought that was all done. There's not an audience for it anymore. Nobody's going to want to see this. But he had a particular assistant who had been with him from the very beginning, who kept bothering him about getting a publishing program started. And she finally nagged him enough that he said, fine, go off, find somebody to write some books and see what happens. And they contacted an author named Timothy Zahn, who wrote a trilogy of novels that kind of became the sequels for what would happen after Return of the Jedi. And it sold out through 4 print runs. They actually ran out of ink for the color of the dust jacket, and the 4th printing had a yellowish cover because they didn't have any blue ink left. And they realized there's an audience here. The generation that had originally watched the movie were kids, and now they'd grown up and they had this interest. And so they started putting other things out there and saying, let's see how far can we push this. And when they realized that there was still a giant audience that now had spending cash out there, they said, okay, we can go forward with the prequels. Had they not done that publishing program first, it's possible we never would have gotten any additional movies. So waiting, I think, worked out in the long run.
One more question. Again, we're talking with Lauren Carner, our in-house Star Wars expert. One more question before we take a quick commercial break. CGI, how much has that changed the franchise? This ain't 1977 anymore, is it?
It's interesting. They balance practical effects with CGI. I think there's a certain charm to using practical effects and capturing as much in camera as you can. And when the prequels first came out, CGI had changed everything that you could do. And I think there is a portion of the fan base that thinks that too much CGI detracts from the picture. And so what you're seeing in this new generation of films is they're trying to balance it a lot better. There's been a bit of a resurgence of traditional model work, puppetry, animatronics, and that kind of thing that is then supplemented by the CGI, and I think you get a better overall effect. There's a lot of neat creature effects that you'll see in The Last Jedi that I think balances those two technologies a lot better.
Speaking for myself, the changes that George Lucas himself made to episodes 4, 5, and 6 with some additional scenes and some extra CGI that were not available to him in 1977, I thought were brilliant. I thought they really helped the story. I really did.
I think it depends on how you look at it. There are purists who think that you should never ever touch the original print, and I can understand the impulse. But if you're going to do the prequels and they're going to be CGI heavy, and then you try and dovetail those with the original movies where they had really cheap sets and you just had a very small camera frame that you could work with, the two series never would have dovetailed together without doing the special editions. I think where my argument comes from is if you're going to enhance the movies, it's fine to fix dodgy 1980s special effects. When you start making story and character changes, that's when people can justifiably get angry about changing who some of the characters in the movies are.
Lauren Conrad is my guest. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, he's 40, I'm 53. So he's the same age as the Star Wars franchise, and we'll talk about Star Wars, the original 3, and how it affected me, and other stuff with Lauren when we come back. You're watching Wake Up in Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Live channel.
Hi, this is Carl.
And Kathy from East Wenatchee Grocery Outlet. We are excited to be a part of this wonderful community and look forward to meeting you at East Wenatchee Grocery Outlet.
Our store is filled with name brand products at bargain prices at 40 to 60% savings. We have a large selection of natural, organic, and specialty foods.
Stop by and meet Carl, the wine guy, on Wednesday.
East Wenatchee Grocery Outlet, where you can win what you saved. Stop by soon.
And we are back here in Wake Up in Wenatchee Valley. The topic is Star Wars, specifically The Last Jedi, but also Star Wars as a cultural phenomenon and as a really good set of films. My story, Lauren, I was 12 going on 13 in the summer of 1977 when Star Wars came out, and a bunch of 6 or 7 of my buddies, we all went to Star Wars at the old Columbia Cinema in East Wenatchee, and it was one of the first times I can ever remember when the movie was over, everybody stood up and clapped. Now, people normally don't clap in a movie theater. Right. It's not like Han Solo and Harrison Ford are going to come out and bow. Right. They're not there. They're on film. But it was that kind of impact. And this is absolutely a true story. I saw the movie 5 times in 5 days. Wow. The next day I call up anybody who hadn't, you want to go? Let's go. That was how I got into it. Your introduction to Star Wars?
Well, I wasn't born when the original movie came out, and so my initial introduction would have been on VHS. And I remember watching it as a little kid and enjoying it, but it's as a kid, you're not really paying attention to the story. It's all about the spectacle and the pew-pew sounds and all of that. What I do remember is during Return of the Jedi, I did get to go and see that in the theater. I was probably a little young for it, and I remember that the Emperor was really scary because Darth Vader was afraid of him. And there's a scene in Return of the Jedi when the Emperor is electrocuting Luke and he's writhing on the floor. And I remember leaning over to my dad and saying, "Is Luke going to be okay?" And my dad, bless his heart, leaned over to me and said, "I don't know, son." And that was the scariest thing that Dad could have told me at that time in the movie. And so I was on the edge of my seat. At that age, it was a lot of fun, but it wasn't something that really stuck with me. It wasn't until I hit my teens, when all of this was coming back up again, that it caught my attention because of the books that I was mentioning earlier. I had happened to pick one up at a bookstore, and that first novel that came out was an absolute page turner, and it was referencing things from the movies that I hadn't seen in probably 10 or 15 years, and I realized I needed to go back and watch them because I didn't remember what had happened. And at that point, it really got its hooks into me, and from then on out, I just grabbed everything that I could. So,
are the first 3 movies underrated?
No,
because there were some people who were disappointed. There were people who didn't like certain characters. I'm not going to mention Jar Jar Binks, but I just did.
I think that there are some very legitimate criticisms of the prequels. I think one of the biggest complaints that the fan base has is that George had outlined when he made the original movies kind of what his concepts for the prequels would be, and they weren't really shy about sharing some of the major plot beats with the audience. I think probably because they didn't think they would ever really make them. But over the years, George had a family. Some of his sensibilities had changed. He's always seen these as movies for kids. They're not really made for guys like me. And some of his opinions about the story he wanted to tell had changed. And when that hit the audience, it was like a bucket of cold water, at least initially. Looking at it with hindsight, there's things about the prequels that I think were wrong. But at the same time, the advantage that the prequels gave all of the things going forward is that it deepened the universe. The original trilogy is a fun story, but the universe itself is only about an inch deep. The prequels added a lot of depth, especially with how the Republic works, the backdrop against which the whole drama plays out. And I think in the long run, that adds to the universe. So I would not be one of those people that say that the prequels are terrible. I'd say maybe the dialogue is, maybe some of the screenwriting was, but the overall concept, it just adds to the story. So
I'm going to put you on the spot. So that's 8 films down, with 1 to go in the 9-episode series that is the Star Wars saga. Your favorite of the 8 so far, now that you've seen?
For me, it's always going to be The Empire Strikes Back.
That's weird. That's mine too.
And I think that's probably most people's favorite movie. It's hard to ever recreate that kind of magic when you have a twist at the end that was a total shock. The audience didn't see it coming. I
literally didn't see it coming, because this is a true story. If you don't mind me, Lauren, we watched the movie for the first time again at Columbia Cinema, and I was drinking a Pepsi and just totally engrossed. Popcorn, Pepsi, popcorn, Pepsi, popcorn, Pepsi. And the Emperor's doing this to Luke, and there's all this, and I have to go pee. I have to go pee. My bladder is full, and I finally said, I just gotta go pee. And I got up and I went to the bathroom and I came back down and I missed the scene. And all anybody was talking about is, Darth Vader is Luke's father. And I go, I missed it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my little story.
There is a moment very much like that in Episode 8. There is a thing that happens in the movie, and I was in the same boat. I knew this was a long movie. I knew that this is one that you don't want to drink a lot before the movie, and midway through I could feel it's like I really would like to take a trip to the restroom now, and couldn't. And so I had to hold it for the full 2.5 hours. I think that it's worth it to do so. So don't drink too much Pepsi before you go to the theater. You're going to want to see it. So,
last question, and I'll cut you loose. Do you have any idea what the 9th and final movie is going to be about, or where it's going to go?
Absolutely none.
They didn't leave anything hanging out there.
I think this is why the reaction to Episode 8 has been so visceral, is that people had all of these theories, all of these things that they thought were going to happen in Episode 8. There is a certain cliche convention to what a Star Wars movie is. If I would call Episode 8 anything, it's almost an anti-Star Wars movie. It takes every one of the things that you might have thought would happen and subverts your expectations. So now the audience is left going, where do we go from here? I don't know.
You've seen it twice. You're going to see it a few more times, I take it, while it's still in theaters.
It depends on whether my son wants to go see it again or not. If he does, then I'll probably definitely take him. But once it comes out on Blu-ray, it'll add to the collection on the shelf. It'll get a lot more watches.
But there's no question that seeing the movie in a communal environment on a big screen in a theater with that kind of system is the way to go.
It always improves it. There's nothing quite like watching the opening crawl go up on a really big screen. So,
Lauren, thank thanks for taking time out from your vacation this week to join us here on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back right after this. And as you can tell, between the time we filmed that and today, where we're back to live, I got my hair cut. Thanks, Brad. I appreciate it. That's a wrap for this Wednesday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. A few clouds, 28 degrees outside of our studio. Is going to warm up with quite a bit of sunshine today and a high of 36. And that's the last we're going to see 36 for a while, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very cold weather, very dry weather for the upcoming Christmas holiday. Good conditions on the mountain passes. Things are looking much better there. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. We'll see you tomorrow morning live at 7 on the NCW Life Channel.